the 4 elements is, let's say, for example, if you come across, let's say somebody says something to you, what's come across, let's say, for example, you feel quite angry if somebody says something to you, or you feel neglected or whatever. He said you have a couple of ways how you can react. You can react, of course, angry back, and then violent will be maybe violent against violence. But you said you can also see, okay, first to see what does it do with you, and also to see, also have space to see what's happening with the other person in front of you who says it. So when saying something back, let's say when you say something back, he said 4 elements will be used. You already see in this nonviolent communication model in front of you that two things are very important in the model. That's empathy and honesty. And he said the first step, if you say something back, is to say something about what you observed. And what do I mean with, about what you observed? So that means actually what the real facts, what you really have seen, what you really have. So not because most of the times we make an interpretation of what we have seen. Probably you recognize it, let's say, for example, I can say, let's say if a colleague is avoiding me, I can say to someone, oh, my colleague at work is avoiding me, but actually that's interpreting, to make an interpretation of it. I can also say very clear, that's a fact, that my colleague is not talking with me. It's a fact, it's clear, and then avoiding, you already make an interpretation. So he said try to make your communication as factual as possible, so you don't have a discussion about this. So in this observation, interpretation and judgment can be pitfalls because you integrate it very quickly, especially if you're very emotional. I can say from your own experience, it's something very difficult to make it as factual as possible. If you have make the observations, then the second step, Rosenberg said, you go to what does it do with you, with feelings. So how come it makes you frustrated or angry or that you feel neglected? What sometimes happens is that you feel that the other person is responsible for you feeling, or that you feel that the other person is responsible for your own feeling. And that, he says, that makes it, that's blurring the communication. He said you are responsible for your own feeling and you are only responsible to react. That doesn't mean, let's say when you're angry and you react angry, he said of course you can always react angry if you feel like that, but you're at the same time you're still responsible for it. And sometimes he also calls this model the model of responsibility, taking responsibility for your own behavior or expressing your own feelings. Going to the third step, he said, okay, then you have been going, what's really happening, and you've been going through the observations, you say, okay, what does it do with me? So what are actually the underlying needs? And you saw also in the video that he was connecting it all the time with the needs. And I experienced myself, but also when during training, that it's sometimes very, very difficult to come towards what's actually my needs. What's needs? We are not so much, how you say, trained in to really looking to yourself and said, okay, but what's actually what I need in this moment of time? Why do I become angry? Let's say, for example, if I feel neglected, that's my feeling. What is actually the need? And the need could be that I actually feel that I need to take, that I also like to express how I think about a specific issue and that I didn't do it. So I feel frustrated that I didn't take this space. So my need is also to express myself. That's the underlying need. And if I'm more aware about my underlying need, it's more easy to also bring this across from your own perspective. And Rosenberg said this is a very important part of it. And bringing it across, we come to the fourth element, that's making the request to the other person. So the first 3 bits is actually your personal assessment. Have you what I already said, if you feel something and you think, something happened, you go through the first 3 steps. You observe what happened, you see, okay, what kind of feelings come across and what are actually my underlying needs, and then you can make the request based on this to the other person in front of you. And what you do in making this request is actually that you're expressing what you would like of the other person. And also check at the same time how this come across for the other person. So Rosenberg said, try to use this request and positive, use positive words when you do it. And try also that people have a choice. Because sometimes the requests come across as being, like a demand, or that people at the other side, although I ask how my requests come across, sometimes people feel they don't have a choice. And if people don't feel a choice, they probably won't do it anyway. So he said, if you really feel you're open to discuss it, people don't feel it's as a demand, and they feel you're open to have this conversation with them. So the request part is very important, to have this open space and the open mind for the other, person also to reflect and give their own feedback on what you just have said.